I'm going to show you how to use MySQL Workbench to create a model that will hold a entity relationship diagram. And then from this diagram, we can forward engineer it to actually create the tables and the foreign key relationships. So we'll click on File, and then we'll want to click on New Model. And we see this MyDB. So by default, the behavior when you create a model is that it will generate a DB called MyDB and put the items inside of it. So I'll click here to add a diagram. And then on the left-hand side, I have these different icons for different objects that I can put in my model. So I'll click on Table, click in white space, and then I'll click Edit Table. I'm going to call my first table Books, and I'm going to create a surrogate key for Books called Books ID. I'm going to make that my primary key. It's going to be not null, meaning it requires a value. It'll be unique, and I'll make it auto increment. I'm going to create another field called title. Varchar 45 is fine, and I'm going to say not null, meaning it must require a value. Now I'm going to create another table called authors. So I click again on the tables icon and click in white space. I've got this new object. I'll edit it like I did the first one, and I'll call it authors. I'm going to do the same thing in terms of creating a surrogate key called author ID. It's going to be a primary key and unique index and auto increment and not null. And I'm going to add to it the author, or I'll just say first name, and I'm going to say it can't be null, and last name. And again, it cannot be null. Now, as I look at this design, a book can have many authors, and an author can be on many books. So I need to create a many-to-many relationship, which means I need an associative or a linking table between these two. So I'll click on the table icon again and click in white space. I'm going to edit that. And I'm going to call this the books authors table. Now, in an associative table, you don't typically need to put in a primary key, or rather a surrogate key, auto increment, because the primary key will be the combination of a book ID and an author ID. So as I mentioned before, when you create many-to-one relationships, you do not actually put the foreign keys on the table itself, because when you create the foreign key relationship, MySQL Workbench will create the column for you as well. So I'm going to click here on the one-to-many. The associative table is always the many. So I'll click on it first, and then I'll click on authors. And notice that it gave me a foreign key relationship here, and it named it authors _ author ID. I'll do the same for books. So I'll click on the one-to-many again, click on the books authors table, then books, and now I have foreign key relationship with the books table. At this point, what I'm going to do is I'm now going to forward engineer this to create these objects inside of the database. To do that, click on Databases, Forward Engineer. And on this screen, you can accept the defaults, then click Next. I usually put a drop objects statement before creating them. I'll click Next. And you can see there's 3 objects in there. And I wanted to create all of them, so I'll click Next again. And here it's generated the script that I need to actually create the objects inside of the database. And let's look at this script. So what it's going to do first is create a schema or database called MyDB, and then it's going to begin creating the different tables, the books table, the authors table, and the book authors table. So I'm going to copy that to my clipboard, and I'm going to just save that to a file. So put that in there. And the reason being is that sometimes when you go ahead and click next, it tries to execute the script, but the script can fail. So I'll click next, and you can see here that the operation completed with some errors. Please see the log for details. And what I've found is that in some instances in our class, this visible keyword causes the script not to run. And I'm not quite sure why. We don't need to provide it because visible is the default keyword if you don't provide it. On some students' machine, it works fine. But if yours fails, then what you can do is I can go to my script that I created here, and I'm going to look for the word visible. Okay, and I'm just going to remove that. And there it is in a couple more places. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that script. I'm going to go back here. I'm going to close this. Still have my diagram here, but now I'm going to go back to SQL here, and I'm going to go ahead in my query window here and paste the script. And then I'm going to run the script. Okay, and it looks like it ran without error. So over here, I can see all of my schemas or databases. I don't see a new one yet because I have to click the refresh button. Now I have the MyDB database along with the authors books and books authors tables.